Mandy is going to talk about breaking point. Breaking point. It's going a breaking point going to be a speech again the same similar section as Asanka speak. Mandy is going to talk about prepare to speak professionally from the visionary communication pathways level 4 or level 5 lecture. The purpose of the speech is to practice developing and presenting a longer speech, keep people entertained and inspired as well. And today's Mandy going to exemplify the point of view from her perspective, the messages she wants to convey, and she would be conveying as a professional level speaker level. Without further ado, let's welcome our second speaker, Toastmaster Mandy, with the speech title Breaking Point. Breaking Point, Toastmaster Mandy Vevers.
Have you ever played a pinball machine? Imagine you're at a bustling game arcade, surrounded by electronic sounds and flashing lights. You insert your coin, pull back the plunger, and let the ball launch into the machine with a satisfying thud. As the ball bounces off the bumpers and the targets, the machine lights up with vibrant, colourful flashes, and the sounds of the bells, buzzers, and chimes fill the air. Your goal is to hit various targets, bumpers, and ramps to rack up as many points as possible. With quick reflexes, you use your fingers to flip the ball back up with a flipper, sending the ball into the scoring area again and again. It's exciting, and you skillfully maneuver the ball amidst the lights and the dynamic sounds. But eventually, the ball slips past your defenses and falls into the drain. Game over. Imagine if your thoughts are a pinball when stress levels are high. It's as if someone has launched the ball with full force, and suddenly our thoughts race unpredictably, hitting every target in sight and setting off a stream of reactions. Like the ball triggers lights, sounds, and bonus rounds, our thoughts under stress can activate a flood of emotion, physical responses, and we might feel our hearts racing, our muscles tensing, and our minds becoming overwhelmed with the constant stream of targets. Our deadlines, our worries, our tasks, each demanding immediate attention, or at least so we think. Just as the ball can sometimes slip past the flippers, despite our best efforts, our mind can feel out of control, our thoughts slipping into negative spirals despite our attempts to manage them. The tilt mechanism in a pinball machine is meant to prevent excessive force. It mirrors our body's stress responses, which can shut down our ability to think clearly when overwhelmed. Stress, that's common, and it's a natural physical response to a new challenging event. There are two components, the stressor and the response. Stresses can be either physiological, like injury, extreme temperatures, noise, or psychological, such as uncertainty, significant life events, time pressure, and interpersonal difficulties. Everyone experiences and deals with stress differently, which is why it's important to understand your unique stress signals and responses. By recognizing how your body reacts to stress, you can help manage it more effectively and maintain your well-being. Stress is put into two types. There's acute stress. This is short-term stress resulting from specific temporary situations or event, such as a traffic jam, an argument with your partner, or criticism from your boss. And then there's chronic stress. This is long-term stress that persists for weeks or months. The body stays in a constant state of alertness despite being in no immediate danger, and it will affect your sleep, the immune, digestive, and cardiovascular systems. Chronic stress can produce both physical and psychological symptoms that interfere with daily functioning. This can be where you reach breaking point. Burnout. Burnout is a severe form of chronic stress. An individual has reached their breaking point, and we are currently living through an epidemic of it. According to Jennifer Moss in The Burnout Epidemic, The Rise of Chronic Stress and How We Can Fix It, burnout is pervasive and damaging. And Christian Marlack and her co-authors Susan Jackson and Michael Leiter identify 6 main causes of burnout: workload, perceived lack of control, lack of reward and recognition, poor relationships, lack of fairness, and values mismatch. Have you noticed anything about those? Interestingly, these factors are often beyond an individual's control. Maslow would compare it to a canary in a cage going into a mine. And if it stops singing, asking why that canary stopped singing and why did it make itself sick? Employees are responsible for their happiness, but burnout, that's a cultural issue. That's a workplace issue. So how do you recognize burnout? Employees are more likely to suffer from burnout are often the most dedicated and committed employees in the workplace. And then there's those roles that have a higher demand, that are that have more empathic, need to be more empathic. They have more, rather than having more intrinsic motivation, they're more required to have it, which outweighs the extrinsic rewards that they're receiving. And that increases the risk in burnout. There are also 3 types of personalities that are more vulnerable to burnout. And their traits, while vulnerable, are also very valuable assets to an organization. There's neuroticism, and they're the people who are more prone to anxiety. They get more worried and have more negative thoughts. They are less likely to be able to cope with something that is a little bit more ordinary in what you would think is a stressor. However, they've got these amazing strengths, which include being highly analytical and hyper aware of potential threats. And there's people who are introverts. They prefer quieter environments. And that makes them susceptible to burnout in highly social workplaces, which is very much what our open workspaces are like these days. They don't have the places where they can go and be in a quiet area so much. But their strengths include productivity in solitary tasks and deep exploration of subjects, all really important to an organization. Then there's the perfectionist. They combine exceedingly high standards with self-critical evaluation. Their drive for excellence can push the organization to higher standards. And yet, because of this can cause them to burn out. An employee burning out may start as an overachiever, and then something happens and they become lethargic and show decreased productivity. And this could end up causing them to respond inappropriately to work-related pressure, which in the end could impact their future career prospects or their success. And the problem is that an employee might not recognize the symptoms. And if they fail to recognize them, avoiding burnout becomes significantly more difficult. It's now the time to remember that burnout is the result of a dysfunctional relationship between the individual and the workplace. While employees must manage their mental health, and organizations must also implement structures to mitigate burnout causes. Both parties have a part to play in reducing burnout. One significant contributor to burnout is the relentless workload. And this can be seen in the hustle culture. This is characterized by continually working to maximum efficiency and then adding to the workload rather than using the efficiencies to give time back. And that becomes unsustainable. During COVID-19, many people, particularly those who previously endured long commutes, found value in working from home. And I was one of them because I used to commute up to 4 hours per day. And it would leave me little time for personal activities. And this lack of downtime combined with extended work hours made my schedule unsustainable. It really didn't work. I wasn't able to give my focus to my family in the way that I would like to have been able to do though, too. The pandemic highlighted that people could reclaim their time and enjoy more meaningful interactions with their families. However, there was a downside, and that was that many ended up working during those hours they were previously spent commuting, leading to even longer work days. This shift underscores the need for clear boundaries between work and personal life. The ability to say, this is my work time and this is my home time. And we have now got in legislation those boundaries being allowed to be executed by employees. So it's essential to work during designated hours and then focus on personal life outside of those hours. And yes, there's exceptions. There are busy times and that does require flexibility. And there are things that happen in the home that need to be happening, that need to be done during the work. And it's working with the employee and the organization to give that flexibility. One strategy that really worked for me was calculating my effective hourly rate based on my total hours that I worked, not just my official working hours. And what this revealed to me was how significantly I was reducing my per hourly rate. So for example, if a person is paid, say, $50 an hour for a 40-hour week or a 38-hour week, but instead they were working 80 hours for the week. If they're working 40 hours, instead of being paid $50 an hour, they're being paid $25 per hour. Think about that. Suddenly it's not so you're not so valuable. It's 50, from 50 to 25. You're valued half the amount. Time is irreplaceable. You can't get that back. Unlike money, you can do something to increase that somehow or earn it in some other way. And this brings to light how crucial it is to balance work and personal life. It's up to employers to recognize that expecting employees to work excessively isn't sustainable. Working more than 55 hours a week can lead to severe health issues, and that includes increasing stress, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, heart attack, and even strokes. And some of them can be fatal. High performance by working longer hours has been proven to be untrue. Rather than blaming employees, employers should examine their workplace culture to understand why excessive work is normalized. If managers and supervisors model overworking, employees are likely to do the same because they want to advance their careers. One way to go against this or change this culture is creating manageable goals rather than the number of unproductive hours worked in one, other than managing unproductive hours that are worked. It's also key to make sure that you take vacations or take your breaks. Having lunch at your desk, which I know I am very big on doing, isn't necessarily the best thing to be doing. It's not really taking a break. You'd be better off going for a walk or sitting in a lunchroom. And it's taking your breaks and going on vacations that is vital for preventing burnout. Regular time out allows for rest, exercise, socialization, and fun, and all of them are key to maintaining mental and physical health. And while you're doing all of those things, it's also good to make sure that you're eating a healthy diet, exercising, and getting a good amount of sleep. In terms of workload, learning to prioritize tasks and communicating with managers about what can realistically be accomplished is an extremely good idea. Managers should provide clear priorities and compensate for additional work when necessary. If managers are communicating when there's a busy time, how long that busy time is going to be, that is more helpful, especially when they also consider what other commitments that an employee may have. Not only that, if your employees are working overtime and have got an additional workload, that's also the time for a supervisor to take on some additional work as well, so that they too are working with their employees rather than them going home and the employees are sitting in the office or sitting on their computers working and feeling as though it's unfair. Another factor contributing to burnout is poor relationships within the workplace. Conflict in a workplace can cause a lot of issues, And it's something that the organization needs to be able to address. And there's a whole lot of policies and procedures that can be used. There can be encouragement to speak to a person if you're being disrespected. And another way is to develop better communication between employees. Having a supportive and friendly work environment is key to work, since it occupies a significant portion of our lives. We're spending 8 out of our 24 hours in a day, at least, usually in work. And that is a third of our working week. So you want to have good relationships. And that's why it's considered that if you can have a best friend at work, then it makes the workplace more enjoyable and you're less likely to have burnout. And employers can foster this with positive relationships among colleagues by organising social events and creating opportunities for team bonding. Employers could measure and address workplace stress levels by conducting surveys and implementing solutions based on data collected. If they ignore the survey results, this can also lead to fatigue and exacerbate the burnout. But if they ask good questions, are mindful of what happens with the results, analyze them, and focus on the areas that will create the most impact, then they can reduce burnout and can really create a great culture to work for. They can be encouraging and curiosity, which can help workplace success and expand empathy. Being curious cultivates innovation and creativity and learning about our colleagues. And that's fun, or it can be. And it creates a workplace that is great to work in and giving people a place to grow and develop with good working relationships. When addressing burnout, it's about the organisation, not the people. It's not good enough to place the responsibility of an employee on to make them not be burnt out. It's about creating the right culture, having the right people, the right policies, and the right leadership. Individuals can go so far in looking after their mental health, and they need to be supported in doing those things by their workplace. On a final note, experiencing burnout and having a mind that has reached a breaking point so that it's flinging around like a pinball in a pinball machine is not fun. However, burnout is a learning experience and potentially leads to new beginnings and opportunities. While it may end one particular career path, it can open doors to new possibilities and personal growth. Thank you.